welcome to today's edition of Politidash. And boy, oh boy, are we in trouble. The climate crisis is approaching a point of irreversibility, and if society doesn't take action soon, there will not be a planet left to save. Climate collapse is coming, and according to the IPCC report that has shaken the world over the past 24 hours, much of the climate crisis is now baked in. Up to about 1.5 degrees Celsius of increase of warming, that's pretty much baked in, give or take. These are very precise predictions. These are very well informed predictions by the top climate scientists in the world. The combined weight of scientific knowledge of the smartest, most well-informed people on these matters you could have in the world collaborating on this. This is accepted by policymakers, governments, and civil society groups all around the world. This is not a partisan or a ideological assertion. In many ways, this report underestimates the challenge ahead, considering the previous predictions have actually already been exceeded in terms of the damage the climate crisis is going to do. So we can plausibly guess that that could well happen this time as well. If we are going to manage net zero, keep warming below 1.5 degrees, we are still going to see, it's going to take a massive transformation, and we are still going to see massive disruptions. The disruptions we're already seeing in terms of fires and extreme weather increase considerably from the point we're at right now before it comes down again. We're going to see massive disruptions to the way we live our lives, permanent changes to our society. And we're also going to see massive migrant flows of climate refugees, particularly from the global south, which we are going to have to take care of and we're going to have to provide for, considering it is the wealthy Western countries that have caused this crisis, and we're going to have to push back against the demagoguery that is basically, and we already see it starting, going to say we've got to keep these people out. Keeping these people out would basically be state-led murder of potentially hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people, poor people from the global south. The only answer to the oncoming flow of climate refugees is to accept them into our societies, basically, because we've caused this problem and because we are going to have to accommodate this and we're going to have to accept we're going to see these massive migration flows over the next coming decades. Whether the political consensus is going to allow for that is another question. We're also seeing basically a big sea change to the way we look at economics, the environment, society. All these things are going to be radically different, and in 20 years from now, society will be irrecognisable. Whether for the better or for the worse is our choice. However, the climate crisis will have shaped everything we do in terms of policy, whether we take that in a regressive and hopeless direction or a progressive and hopeful direction is very much on the whole up to us. Although looking at our political leaders right now, it doesn't inspire much hope. We also need to remember, particularly looking at the United States, it is not a one-way thing. It's not the centre-left have done great, the centre-right have done terribly. Remember, before Trump, Obama, his administration, basically bragged about drilling, big on oil, virtually completely toothless on climate action, actively exacerbated the crisis and didn't take action, fiddled by Rome while Rome burned. Joe Biden now is tweeting about the severity of the crisis, even though he's in office with the trifecta of government, House, Senate, presidency, still not taking sufficient action. And it looks like, in that sense, the US, in terms of climate action, is totally hopeless, which is a massive roadblock. There is a glimmer of hope in the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill proposed by Senate Democrats yesterday. That would contain some measures, the most ambitious measures to tackle the climate crisis proposed in America in the last 10 years, or potentially ever. However, nowhere near enough to actually make a dent on this problem. A Green New Deal, a full state-led Green New Deal, is required internationally. And that is not the extreme position, that is the moderate position when you look at the scale of the crisis ahead of us and how much it's going to cost us in the long run. It means more, it does, and we see here in this country the Labour Party basically saying more spending is a no-no. This does mean, and any policymaker worth their salt knows this does mean more spending, increased government spending on a massive scale, a scale we didn't think we'd be prepared for. A scale many sort of centrists are going to balk at, but is the only way to save the planet. We are going to have to look at the way we use the state to intervene in the economy massively. A state-led transition, trillions of investment around the world, so as to avoid the carnage that unfettered green capitalism will bring about. Basically, deindustrialization on steroids. Really regressive, and it will turn the general populace against taking any kind of climate action. Because if we go the green capitalist route, which likely means we won't take any meaningful action in the time it takes, so it'd be meaningless anyway. However, green capitalism basically means an extremely regressive transition that will hit the poorest hardest. And as I say, we'll turn basically half the population of most wealthy countries into climate denialists because they can't afford the transition. Chat about the third world, chat about China and India as well, sort of emerging powers saying, this is why are you talking about Britain? Talk about China. It's nonsense, okay? Originally, we were the biggest emitter, the UK. Over time, the West has done the most damage. The wealthy, quick to industrialise countries have done the most damage. They have contributed the most to this problem over the long term. Yes, China is massively increasing its emissions and it's leading on various charts right now. However, we have to do this, demonstrate we're going to do this, or we have no leg to stand on, considering we're the people that overwhelmingly drove this problem, overwhelmingly paved the path. This is how you get economic growth, which these other countries have followed the model of, and not nearly for as long. We need to take action. Yes, there needs to be a wealth transfer from the global north to the global south to the tune of trillions in order to basically look at it as reparations, look at it as subsidies. We need to do that, no strings attached, in order to help, not force, help these governments, these poorer countries, to do this transition without hurting their domestic populations, considering we had all the benefits of industrialisation without having to do this. And if we make these countries do it, first of all, they won't do it, but if we force them to do it, it's going to cause mass suffering in these countries. We have to subsidise these countries taking the action necessary in order to create an equitable net zero settlement for these poorer countries in the third world and the global south. That cannot be ignored, and it's something even so-called progressives don't talk about nearly as much. Moderate progressives, not genuine progressives. There are many great progressive policy thinkers on these sort of things. We also need to think about how hideous the spectre of green capitalism would be. Green capitalism is basically the idea that the market will take care of this. If the market takes care of it, it will basically be a period of crippling austerity, mass suffering, and a transition that won't happen nearly as fast enough. So we'll get the climate change, but we'll also get sort of austerity on steroids and new killings made out of green tech, deindustrializing, bringing down conditions for wages, exorbitant costs for people. Green capitalism is basically what these so-called libertarians in the UK crowing about climate action. It's going to hurt so much to pay for these 10 grand boilers. Yes, it will. And your ideology is the only reason climate action is going to do that. If we go that ideological route, yes, climate action is going to be regressive. If we actually go the state-led route, climate action will be massively progressive and will actually have the potential to raise living standards, not lower them. So when libertarians tell you climate action is too expensive, you're ignoring the working class, well, no, that's your ideological assertion because you can't comprehend doing this any other way than the way of the hideous spectre of green capitalism. We need full state intervention. We need nationalisation of major oil companies, fossil fuel companies, to manage the transition. We need large swathes of banking and industry in this country and around the world, decommodified, taken into public ownership. We need to completely, in this country in particular, we need to completely disentangle our banking system from financing climate anywhere. We're outsourcing our emissions. While it looks like we're doing a good job domestically, what we're actually doing is we're outsourcing our emissions around the world and financing it through our banking system, which in turn enriches the wealthy more in this country and basically pays into our coffers. So we need to do that. Right now, as of right now, the action taken by pretty much any country you can name is a joke. Even the best examples are insufficient. No one is taking this seriously. We need massive changes that look unlikely to happen right now. It looks like the political will isn't quite there. We are truly in the soup. We are truly done for unless we rapidly decarbonise our economies and take action in a progressive, state-led manner now. Thank you for watching Politidash today. I'll be back with more very soon. Cheers.